Look, thanks for the introduction and welcome, and for your hospitality. Greetings to everyone. I'd like to firstly pay my respects to traditional owners past, present and emerging. It looks like the drought's broken. You can blame me for that. Everywhere I seem to go, cyclones follow and wet weather. But the good thing about that is Barramundi love it. So recruitment. So that's a good thing. Now you may be asking why a bloke from Kansas here. This is a Northern Territory issue, but I've been asked to talk originally to a few businessmen at a barbecue. A bit of an understatement there. Thank you, gents, for throwing me into this one. But look, Carefish is an organisation I put together, and we've trodden this path of fisheries management and trying to bring it under control. It's so I've been asked to just try and bring some experience that we've had and suffered in Queensland to you, because there's easy ways of doing this. So at the outset, I'd just like to say that this is not the room to create enemies, and we're not here to do that. We're not here to argy-bargy or push or pull. This is here for a respectful conversation, and if today's the beginning of the future, well, let's look at it in those terms and have a constructive dialogue. And so maybe we can get all parties to agree, and win-win situations is a way forward. Look, I get pretty nervous public speaking, so what I do is I blur all you out and try and sense a bit of energy. And what I see is like this giant barramundi. I mean, Northern Territory is just amazing. You guys are so passionate about them. In Queensland, we don't sort of really have that because we haven't had them. We've had 1,000 gill nets, and so we're getting rid of them and the barramundi are coming back. So that heart is growing, but you guys have had it. And so I see a strong backbone here. I can feel the heartbeat, and it's very powerful. I really feel it, and it's a great thing. So I also see on all this an old way of doing things. This is what I've really noted. This is my first visit to the Northern Territory, and I've been here for a few days, but I really noticed there's a different way of doing things, a more old-fashioned way where a room full of strong handshakes and eyes to eyes, and let's solve the problem, and my word is my word. So this is a wonderful ethic, and you don't get that in the East Coast. It's full of snakes. It's crazy over there. It's slippery as hell, and but we created that situation. So there's other ways of doing it, and I'd just like to go through that. I think really at the outset we should try and identify the problem and encapsulate it and put it up there and put it in inverted commas. So I've done a little bit of thought about this, and I've come down to this is the problem. Large areas of previously accessible water available to commercial gill netters has been made off limits, pushing them into smaller areas and direct conflict with recreational, environmental and traditional owner values. So I think that's my statement, that's my grab on this situation. So let's just think about that for a while, and in the meantime I'll just talk a little bit about Carefish. So I founded Carefish in 2009. It was in response to a pretty ragged bunch of large egos in Cairns, and to try and get some coherent messages through to the government on what we wanted. And we, like I say, on the East Coast we had 1,000 nets, 1,000 trawlers, 4 million coral trout a year getting taken off the Great Barrier Reef. So we had a lot of work to do. It was obvious to me that we needed a better model, so I created Carefish as a digital operation where, and it was invited people in the business community were invited in to make comment and try and progress the benefit of the recreational fishing, but everything had to be in writing. So we got rid of the drunken rebel, which was pretty prevalent in Cairns, I don't know about here, but and we got a much more coherent discussion. So that led us, a few of us, to roll our sleeves up and get stuck into and study the fisheries management, study the politics, study the relationships with the commercial fishery, and really get our head around it and be a positive influence on the government and for the community, and a strong advocate for the community, and that's what the government wanted to hear. So they really liked that model. We weren't there to burn down the town hall. We were there to try and get a better outcome for the community, get the politicians to get more votes, and so that's That's what we want. We reached out to Afant back in the day, and it's been a really tough road. Like, there's been some very difficult discussions with the industry because Queensland did it the wrong way. There's ways to do that. So we've had such a huge commercial industry. It's really flattened. You know, like everyone thinks, go to the Barrier Reef, there's fish everywhere, they just jump in the boat. That's not the case. It's good marketing, but it's not the reality. And I had a fishing lodge and a fishing boats and four-wheel drive hire and adventure tourism businesses that were just struggling, and had groups come out and they couldn't catch a fish, which they'd want to lynch me because of that. They go into the rivers. If it was windy, they go out the reef. If it wasn't, if it was windy, they go on the rivers, try and catch a barramundi to be a gill net in there, and then they come and say, oi, this is not in your brochure. So we started to make some success. We got into the doors that were really closely shut, and this all came from a primary industry point of view where tons and taxes ruled from a government point of view, but we had to really get in some of that social licence messages into the government, and we eventually did. Took a long time, a lot of hard work, a lot of head-butting doors, which is what sometimes it's like talking to politicians. If you've done that, I have. But look, I see a lot of horsepower in this room, and you guys have got the potential to sit down and have lunch with ministers and talk the talk. So you're the guys. This room is full of guys and women to give those ministers and the politicians a kick under the table, and I think this is a perfect situation for that. So our main driver wasn't really economic benefit in the early days, or about endangered species, or revenge with commercial fishermen, or politics. It was simply about the fish. Mums and dads and kids being able to catch a fish, and that's what was primary to us. So I want to talk, this is a business group, so I want to talk in terms of put some architecture around that. We've sort of defined what the problem is. So what's next? We kind of need a bit of a business model here. And so as a vision statement, I would say, from my view, gill nets create imbalance. They create imbalance in the environment, and they create imbalance in the community. So a qualifier to that would be something like the issue that we've had, or that you guys have had, where the gill nets have been pushed into a smaller area and causing conflict. So what's a plan? Excuse me. What's a plan? So underneath that in your structure, you can have, do we want to do this the hard way, or do we want to do this the easy way? Because I can tell you the hard way is, and the way often of government, is to whittle and to avoid and to be reactive instead of proactive, the problem, and it becomes a battlefield of enemies. There's blood on the floor. The commercial guys hate the recreational guys, hate the commercial, hate the environmental, hate the politician, and this just goes on for years and years and years as money dribbles out to slowly bring it down. But the end product, the end result is the same whether you do this the hard way or the easy way, and the end result needs to be to get rid of the gill nets. So the easy way is to get the checkbook out now and approach the commercial guys where the problem is and give them the opportunity to get out. And from my observations here, a lot of them do. The industry becomes a bit of a pariah, and they've lost the respect. The days of the old commercial fisherman rowing his boat out with a bottle of beer and catching half a dozen barramundi for the fish and chip shop are gone. That was artisanal. What you have now is an industrial fishery. Some of the boats I've seen are huge. We have boat size limits because that effort is too high. The efficiency of that operation is too much for the environment to handle. So that's what you've got here. So in our tussle with the commercial fishermen in Queensland, they were constantly saying, look, if you want to get rid of us, buy us out, but don't bullshit us. Don't come at us with pennies. Don't insult us. Give us a check and we'll leave, and then we can exit the industry with dignity. And I think that's a really strong message here for you guys. There's, 16 commercial licences here or so. get the checkbook out and sort it out, because otherwise this is just like shooting a beast in the guts. It just slowly dies and it bites everything that comes near it. You don't need that. Have some dignity, walk together, talk together, roll your sleeves up. You're all businessmen. If I could throw a dart and land and say, how much is this going to cost? I don't know, I'm from Cairns. This is your calculation, your world. But if that dart landed on $30 million, I think that's kind of in the ballpark. $30 million is how much it costs to build a two-lane bridge across a creek. So to put that in perspective, it's not a lot of money. What's at risk here is the reputation for Northern Territory as being the Barramundi capital of the world. And Cairns will I will put my hand up. If I can grab that crown, I will. And Cairns is coming, and Mackay, Rockhampton is rocketing along. We have threadfin salmon up to 1.6 that eat 5 kilogram barramundi live. I've seen it happen. I've seen 1.4 metre barramundi swim around my legs with a cast net. We don't have as many crocodiles as you. But I thought it was a crocodile. and we've got some big animals growing, and they haven't been netted in our areas. For the Cairns area, I'm the proponent for the Cairns net-free zone. I did all the work on that. The fish now are beauties. So let's talk about terms. So we've had a slide up here. There's a slide going up for the GDP. There's a research being done by the Federal Research, FRDC, Fishing Research Development Corporation, it's a government-funded body, and it collects data. And we can see that Cairns has got the amount of the GDP, the amount of money that changes hands is 2.5 billion for Queensland, and in Northern Territory is 0.3 of a billion, like around about $300 million. So a $30 million investment from a business point of view is a one-off investment with $30 million with a $300 million reward every year per annum. So to me, I'd like to be in that business. I'll buy that business. That sounds pretty good to me. So all you business heads out there, think about that. This is the way I would go. So we want to see you want to see the barramundi remain here, and you guys being the capital of the world in barramundi. We want to see it in Queensland. We've adopted what we believe, and we've worked very hard as world's best management practice, and that's what we all need. We need to work towards that. There's some very good people that I've met around here, and one is Adele Petter, which is a local. And you really want to, if you don't know Adele, you really want to get to know her. She's across this stuff. She works for AMCS. The next guy coming on, Leo, is an AMCS guy, a scientist. And so get to know Adele and have a chat. She's across these issues. Let me just finish with a little example of what my observation of removing the gill nets from Cairns has been. And I live on a little beach shack on the beach in the northern beaches of Cairns. And I've looked out there for 20-something years. And before we got the net-free zone, you never saw a boat because there was 8 gill nets working up and down the beach. Never saw a boat. No one bothered to go fishing there. And Cairns had 0 barramundi credential. People from Cairns used to fly to Darwin to catch a barramundi. And that was crazy for me. That sort of impelled me. But we never saw a boat. Today, 8 years later, now we see 40. And they're out there. They've got all the gear on. There's sounders. They've got stickers. They're not as big as your boats, but they're getting there. And mums, dads, kids with all the same T-shirts on. And I hang out at a cafe, which is right on the beach. It's where I write my stuff. And I watch it. You know, this is kind of like I've got possession of this. I'm quite paternal about it. Mum hooks a fish, something big, right in front of the cafe. The whole cafe get up, walk down with their cameras. We're all cheering. Mum's gutting down. Dad's pulling the anchor up. The kids are roaring. It's a beautiful picture. Mum lands the fish. The restaurant all cheer. Mum holds it up, then releases it, gets double the cheer. And this is a really happy story. And so this is my experience with what we have now in Cairns. This is getting better because the nets have been out. The longer they're out, the more abundance. So I'll just finish on that with that example, and I wish you luck in your journey, and thank you.